Hello. Hello, friends. Today's topic is approaches knowledge representation. So there are mainly four approaches to knowledge representation. First is simple relational knowledge. In this, we have to collect the data and store in a database in a systematic way. If you have a data and you store a data in a raw manner, and the data is around 1 lakh, so there is impossible to search one thing, your 1% data, because there is a lots of time has to be taken to search a person. But if you have a synchronized data in a tabular form or in Excel form, so you can you can filter the person or name of person or particular category, and you can find out the data. So it is the simplest way of storing facts, which uses the relational method, and each fact about a set of about a set of the object is to set out systematically in columns. This approach of knowledge presentation is famous in database system, where the relationship between different entities is represented. This approach has little opportunity for inferences. So this is a example, simple example. There is a player who we have taken player 1, player 2, player 3, and this is the weight of player and age, and many more fields you can add. If you want to search how many players are above weight 65, so you can scroll down and you can filter this and you can search out. Now, second is inheritable knowledge. In the inheritable knowledge approach, all data must be stored in a hierarchy of classes. All classes should be arranged in a generalized form or a hierarchical manner. In this approach, we apply inheritance property. Elements inherit values from other members of a class. This approach contains inheritable knowledge, which shows a relation between instance and class, and it is called instance relation. Every individual frame can represent the collection of attributes and its value. In this approach, objects and values are represented in boxed nodes. We can arrow which point from object to their values. So this is the example of inheritable knowledge. See, there are two persons, Peter and Ankit. These are the instances. Peter is a cricket player, and Ankit is a football player. So cricket is a player, yes. So then go. Football is a player, yes. Player is a adult male, yes. So then so you can create it just like a tree shape. Third is inferential knowledge. In inferential knowledge approach represents knowledge in the form of formal logics. See, if you have a sentence, so you can represent a sentence in the form of logic. This approach can be used to derive more facts. It guaranteed correctness. Suppose Like example, Marcus is a man, and second, all men are mortal. So you can represent this man, bracket, Marcus, bracket close. And all men are mortal. For all x, this is a universal quantifier. For all x equals to man x, implication mortal x. Now, procedural knowledge. Procedural knowledge approaches use small programs and code which describe how to do a specific thing and how to proceed. In this approach, one important rule is used, which is if-then rule. In this knowledge, we can use various coding languages such as Lisp language and Prolog language. So we can easily represent heuristic or domain-specific knowledge using this approach. But it is not necessary that we can represent all cases in this approach. So there are requirements for knowledge representation system. A good knowledge representation system must possess the following properties. First is representational accuracy. Knowledge representation system should have the ability to represent all kinds of required knowledge. And second, inferential adequacy. Knowledge representation system should have ability to manipulate the representational structures to produce new knowledge corresponding to existing structure. Inferential efficiency. The ability to direct the inferential knowledge mechanism into the most productive direction by storing appropriate bytes. Acquisitional efficiency. The ability to acquire the new knowledge easily using automatic methods. Now, these are the techniques of knowledge representation: logical representation, semantic network representation, frame representation, and prediction rules. Logical representation. Logical representation is a language with some concrete rules which deals with proposition and has no ambiguity in representation. Logical representation means drawing a conclusion based on various conditions. This representation lays down some important communication rules. It consists of precisely defined syntax and semantic which supports the sound inference. Each sentence can be translated into logic using syntax and semantics. Syntax are the rules which decide how we can construct legal sentence in the logic. It determines which symbol we can use in knowledge representation and how to write those symbols. Semantics. Semantics are the rules by which we can interpret the sentence in the logic, and semantic also involves assigning a meaning to each sentence. Logical representation can be categorized into mainly two logics: propositional logic and predicate logic. What are the advantages of logical representation? Logical representation enables us to do logical reasoning. Logical representation is the basis for the programming languages. And what are the disadvantages of logical representation? Logical representation have some restrictions and are challenging to work with. Logical representation technique may not be very natural, and inference may not be so efficient. Now, semantic network representation. In semantic network representation, semantic networks are alternative of predicate logic for knowledge representation. In semantic networks, we can represent our knowledge in the form of graphical network. This network consists of nodes representing objects and arcs which describe the relationship between those objects. Semantic networks can categorize the object in different forms and can also link those objects. There are easy relation or kind of relation. So this is the example of knowledge semantic network representation. So these are the sentences. Jerry is a cat, Jerry is a mammal, Jerry is owned by Priya, Jerry is white colored, all mammals are animals. So we can represent in a graphical manner. So Jerry, this is a arc, white is colored, and Jerry is owned Priya, Jerry is a cat, or cat is a mammal, or mammal is an animal. So this is the graph representation or graph representation. Drawbacks in semantic representation. Semantic networks take more computational time at runtime, as we need to traverse the complete network tree to answer some questions. It might be possible in worst case scenario that after traversing the entire tree, we find that solution does not exist in this network. Okay, but these type of representation are inadequate as they do not have any equivalent quantifier. For example, for all, for some, and none. Semantic networks do not have any standard definition for the link names, and these networks are not intelligent and depend on the creator of the system. What are the advantages of semantic networks? Semantic networks are a natural representation of knowledge. Semantic networks convey meaning in a transparent manner. These networks are simple and easily understandable. Now, third is the frame representation. A frame is a record-like structure which consists of a collection of attributes and its values to describe an entity in the world. Frames are the AI data structure which divides knowledge into substructure by representing stereotypes situation. It consists of a collection of slots and slot values. These slots may be of any type and size. Slots have names and values which are called facets. Facets, the various aspects of a slot, is known as facets. Facets are the feature of frames which enable us to put constants on the frame. And frame is also known as slot filters knowledge representation in artificial intelligence. Now this is the example of a book frame, of a frame for a book. Agar book ka if you want to represent a book, so you can fix a slot, like slot and filter, just title, artificial intelligence, general computer science, author Peter Norvig, edition, third edition, year 1996, and how many pages? 1152. And what is the advantage of frame representation? The frame knowledge representation makes the programming easier by grouping the related data. The frame representation is comparable, flexible, and used by many applications in AI. It is very easy to add floats for new attribute and relation. It is easy to include default data and to search for missing values. Frame representation is easy to understand and visualize. What are the disadvantages of frame representation? In frame system, inference mechanism is not be easily processed. Inference mechanism cannot be smoothly proceed by frame representation. And next is prediction rules. Prediction rule system consists of condition or action pair, which means if condition, then action. It is mainly three parts: the set of prediction rule, working memory, and the recognized act cycle. Thank you.